Hello JavaScript folks. This video is intended for those of you who are not too familiar with programming, but we do assume that you have read and studied chapters 1 and 2 from the book, and that you have familiarized yourselves with HTML at w3schools.com website as recommended in the assignment. What we see here is Aptena Studio 3 with the mpg a.html file, the calculate miles per gallon on page 81 in the book, and also exercise 1 in the back of chapter 2 as an assignment. This is a good file to get started with. It's a simple HTML document containing the JavaScript which we get started with the first 2 weeks of this class. This JavaScript will demonstrate all of the programming elements that you need to know. Starting with the JavaScript file, we have a doc type on the first line. Second line, we open up HTML tag with a property language of English. The head is opened, then be sure to include those: meta, character, UTF-8, title, of course, always give a good title for your code. And here we have, we're including a script from Google, as the book explained, called HTML5.js. It's a JavaScript which makes the older browsers compatible with HTML5. Always include that as well. And here we have an inline script. Normally it will be called from externally, but to make it simple, we're keeping it right in the code for now. We'll talk about that in a minute. The head is finished. We open the body, which will run as soon as everything in the head is complete, at which time section, the book uses the tag section, and there will be a message on the browser when everything's done. This page is displayed after the JavaScript is executed. Good, so that takes care of the HTML. Now let's take a look at JavaScript. The first line is actually quite complex. It includes a lot of different topics. First of all, this is an assignment. We can tell this because there's an equal sign in the middle, something on the right and something on the left. And in programming, an equal sign doesn't mean an equality. It just means an assignment. So that means we assign whatever value is coming back from the right side of the equal sign, and it gets dumped on the left side of the equal sign into a variable, usually a user-made variable such as miles, which has been initialized here with var. This is how we create new variables, which are nothing but memory locations somewhere in the computer that we can access, we can write to it, and we can read from it. So right now we are using a prompt function, which is nothing but a program, a little program written in JavaScript, most likely, which requires a parameter or two. In this case, we're just using one. In quotes, in double quotes, we have a message to be part of the prompt. Enter miles driven, and it's surrounded by quotes, and this is referred to as a string in programming language, which causes JavaScript to treat this literally. Let's run the program and see what this prompt looks like. And there it is, enter miles driven. We can enter, the user is going to enter a value such as 44, press OK, and a second prompt comes up asking for gallons. Enter gallons of gas used. And sure enough, in this line we see another prompt function which with the string enter gallons of gas used. But let's see what happened in the middle here. The book explained that when you have a prompt, when you have data coming back from the user from the prompt function, That data comes back to JavaScript into this variable as a string. It's important to a programming language where the data is a string or a number or a value, especially when you're going to be using it mathematically, such as in this formula, miles divided by gallons. So what we have to do once we have data, string data, which we know is going to be used mathematically, then we have to turn into a number, and the way we do it is run it through a function called parse float, which is going to take this string, this 44, these characters 44 that are now in miles, and the function is going to perform a little magic to turn this 44 into a number, but also a decimal number. That's what parse float means, a decimal number. The decimal number miles, which is just going to be 44.0, I suppose, is going to go in miles. Is going to repopulate the old memory location miles with the corrected string. So now miles is ready to be used in this formula. The next prompt, same thing with that. On the right side of the assignment is going to take the number of gallons and put it in this newly initialized variable called gallons with a bar in front. Same thing with gallons. Gallons is to be fixed up, so it's no longer a string but a decimal number. Now we are ready for creating a new variable called mpg, and we're going to assign mpg with this calculation of miles divided by gallons. And one more thing we would like to do is to, since miles per gallon is going to be a decimal with this division, we should fix that number to be an integer, and we can use the function parse int. We put mpg, the decimal number, in here. Parse int will convert it to an integer and pass it along to the old location for that number, which is mpg. Now we use the alert statement to create a string to give us a message, to give the user a message. And so what we're doing here, we are concatenating some data. Remember that when we are dealing with strings, the plus sign does not add as it would mathematically, but it concatenates, which means it puts the data to the right of that plus sign, right next to the string to the left of it. And to the left of it we have miles per gallon equal space, and that's the end of the string with a quote. And right next to that space we're going to put the miles per gallon, as we're going to see shortly. I'm going to put 2 gallons in here, press OK, and here's the answer: miles per gallon equals space and the value, which is an integer. And press OK, and what will happen? But the body will now engage and give us this message. This page is displayed after the JavaScript is executed. Good. Let's run this program one more time and see the problem that we'll fix momentarily. Rerun the program, and we're going to put this time bad values such as nothing. So let's press OK on miles driven. We can even put something like 2 at this point, but it doesn't matter because we're missing a number, and the message is going to be an error message, not a number. So the exercise at the end of chapter 2 is going to ask us to fix that problem. The first thing we'd like to do is use an if statement and have a condition, whether it's true or not, that we have a decent value or not. And so what we do, miles have been entered. Miles is going to be modified, but before we modify it, we have to make sure that the value is okay. So we're going to insert a line in here and add an if statement. Open the parenthesis into which we're going to put a condition or 2 to make sure that miles is a number. So the first thing we can do is miles equal, which is an equality operator, to nothing, which is a couple double quotes will represent that. So if miles equal 0, and remember, and be sure you have these two equal signs. If it's only one equal sign, you will place a blank string into miles, and that's not what we want to do. We want to ask, is miles actually equal to blank? And that's how we do it. Two equal sign. And then we add an or statement, because either or needs to cancel the operation. So we're going to use the vertical bar, two of them, which are called pipes in programming. Or is miles a number? And we have a function to help us with that, which is called is not a number, with these types of uppercase and lowercase. And within this function, of course, requires a parameter, and the parameter is going to be the name of miles, which contains our value. Let's see, what else do we need? So if at this point we're going to open a block by using those braces, I push 1 and the ID gives us 2. I press enter and the cursor is ready to go to add some code to be executed in case these conditions are correct. If miles is blank, or if it's not a number, then we want to alert a message to the user to do better than that. Alert, and we can just be sure to use a valid number. And that should be it. We need a semicolon at the end of that. We have no messages on the left to say that there's another error, so things might be okay. Let's save and rerun the program to see if it works. We're going to enter nothing under miles and see if we get our message. Be sure to use a valid number. Very good, it works. Of course, if we press OK, it's ready to input the gallons, but we can't do that, right? What we have to do now is put this if statement, or actually these 4 lines here, into a loop. It's going to be a do-while loop, and it's going to keep looping as long as the condition is basically the same as the one in the if statement. So the way we do this is you can put your cursor right in front of the block of code that needs to be part of the loop, and you type in do, enter your brace, press enter, and then what you want to do is indent the rest of the code that's going to be part of that block by using tab keys. Now the if statement, the alert is part of the if statement, so you want to indent the alert statement. Indent this brace from the do underneath the if, since they belong together. And right after the if statement, we need to press delete there and finish the brace for this block. So the do is in place, you're going to do, and the block is going to be prompting the miles and then checking the miles and give an alert if it's not good. And the do, of course, also needs a condition which works with the while, and the while has, of course, parentheses for the condition, which is the same as the if. So let's go ahead and copy this one. And paste it in the condition for the while loop without any extra parentheses. And while miles is equal to blank or is not a number, and we just need a semicolon and we're done. So let's rerun the program. We're going to enter some blank data. We'll get the message, we press OK, and we get to enter the miles once again. If you enter something which is still not a number, of course, it's going to keep asking for a valid number. Great, so now we can enter a valid number, and enter gallons, of course, are still not properly validated, so we still get not a number, and that will have to, of course, be fixed. And we believe that you folks at this point can add this code to the gallons. It's going to be the same thing here. We start the loop where the prompt begins and ends after the condition, the if condition, and you can do the same thing here. You have the prompt for the gallons, and underneath you'll put in your if statement, and you'll sandwich all of this in a do-while loop. So there it is. This code represents what you should know after 2 weeks of this class. You have to be familiar with the do-while loop. Be sure you can do that okay and understand it. There's also a for loop and a regular while loop. You know how to initialize variables with the var. You know how to use the prompt function and using a string in quotes. You should understand the if conditional and the way the conditions are constructed with either an or an and, which is 2 ampersand signs. You are now familiar with is a number function, the parse float, the parse int, and also the way to make an assignment using a value on the right, which populates a value on the left, and the alert statements, and finally how you can concatenate different pieces of information as long as they're strings. So be sure you are familiar with all these concepts, and thank you very much, and good luck.